name is Dr. Hans. In 2000, I received my MD and started on a path of internal medicine and infectious diseases. In 2017, my son was diagnosed with SYNGAP1 syndrome, and I became a rare disease advocate. And in 2021, I joined industry in order to work on rare diseases as much as possible. And I love talking about rare diseases. So today I'm going to talk about ICD-11. So ICD, the International Classification of Diseases, has gone through an 11th revision. While we're still using the 10th here in the United States, the WHO did adopt an 11th revision in 2019, and it rolled out in 2022 for uptake by member nations. It's a fantastic system. It is complicated. It allows sort of extension coding. You can connect codes to have a degree of granularity you don't have in ICD-10. And there was a concerted effort to include rare diseases from the get-go, dedicated working groups, etc. And considering that there's anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 rare diseases, not all of them are a part of the ICD-11 system right now. But the planners included a maintenance platform, sort of an entry point for interested parties to submit proposals, comments, edits, requests for new codes. And that's what I'm going to go over today. So let's go to the landing page for ICD-11. And you can see right away on the left-hand side of browsers to take a look at the various codes and see where your neighbors are located, a coding tool. And then over here on the right-hand side, the maintenance platform. I'm going to use the coding tool for just a moment because I do want to illustrate what an extension code is. So let's say I put in tibia fracture. And here you see this plus sign. And what this allows me to do is post-coordinate. I'm going to select tibia fracture, and it's NC 92.2. But I also get to add on an extension code. For example, it's on the left lower leg. So now we've got an and symbol and a new code. So now it's not just a fracture of the tibia, but it's the fracture of the left tibia. Also, it happens to be a compound fracture. I've added another extension code. So you can see that there's some serious complexity here for the user to code as detailed as possible, which is great from a data standpoint, right? Now, going back to the maintenance platform, we started the effort, probably 3-4 years ago. First, looking at where it would go in the ICD-11 system. Would it go into epilepsy? Would it go into the congenital diseases? We spoke to our scientific community in order to be aligned on a label, choosing SYNGAP1 encephalopathy, a bit better than saying non-syndromic intellectual disability, because not every SYNGAP1 patient has intellectual disability. They can just have a learning disability. And once we were aligned with our community, we went ahead and submitted on the maintenance platform. Now, there are no deadlines. There's no twice-a-year meetings. It's simply a rolling process where you put your code in and it will go through the workflow on the WHO side of it. And there's constant updates involved as well. You can ask your buddies to register, log in, look up your proposal, and add their thumbs up, their agreements to your request. So it's less deadline oriented than what you may be used to for the ICD-10 system here in the US. I'm going to go into the maintenance platform so you get a sense. Here you have the proposal list search and add proposals, and you wind up getting to the list of proposals. And you can wind up searching by your disease of interest. Maybe someone has already included a proposal and it's going through the workflow. For illustration, you can bring up 2E09, which was the SYNGAP1 encephalopathy proposal I put in. and take a close look at it. I mean, we requested LD 90.5 and a title to it. We describe it here for them. We include references. We get our friends to log on and agree. And it winds up going through the workflow of the Medical and Scientific Advisory Committee as a first stop. Here we recommend it. We want to change this, that, or the other thing. Post-coordination aspects like I illustrated in the browsing tool. And then it winds up going to the Classification and Statistics Advisory Committee, the CSAC. And it did not occur to me when we were granted our code, but we wound up getting indexed. So what happened was they indexed this new entry of changing the title SYNGAP1 syndrome, and that's why I use that label, to LD90.Y in the mortality and morbidity statistics. Thank you to the person who recognized this, and I've gotten questions on it, and it's okay. Indexing in ICD-10 can be very, very disappointing, and I touched upon that in the previous podcast. Here, at least, with indexing in ICD-11, and I can wind up showing you what I mean. We are in LD90, and there are 61 index terms in here, right? And once you get to the bottom, here we are. Now, we have our own code within the foundation of ICD-11, and that is great. We are sort of recognized as a tried and true disease, and you can wind up supposedly using this as an extension code to post-coordinate LD90.Y and specify SYNGAP1 syndrome is the cause behind other specified conditions with disorders of intellectual development as a relevant clinical feature, right? It's a real mouthful. But thankfully, the WHO allows this to be an extension code. Also, down the road, and it's not active yet, is that there's a chromosome and genomic axis. What that means is, in the same way that an extension code can say that the laterality of a fracture is on the left side compared to the right, there will be an opportunity to label specific genes. And at least you maybe saw a second proposal that was a part of my submissions. And here it's to use Human Genome Nomenclature Committee numbers, HGNC numbers, for genetic specificity. It's under review. It is a goal of ICD-11 to include this. So you can imagine that LD90.Y will have an extension code for 11497 SYNGAP. So there may be two avenues that we can have a very specific coding process within ICD-11 for doctors to use. That foundation code is also a part of the electronic medical record if a country so mandates it. Countries have different rules, and sort of in the back end, buried in the EHR, there should also be, for certain countries, the opportunity to use that foundation code. Another way to extract data specific to our SYNGAP1 syndrome population. So I hope that reassures anyone who's concerned about being indexed. ICD-11 will not repeat the mistake, let's say, of ICD-10, where you're thrown into a bucket and can't get out of it. So just to conclude, I really encourage you to get in now. It'll take a couple of years, and it always rolls out in the beginning of a calendar year. I would also lobby for uptake of ICD-11 in your country. If you have any way to make that happen, please do. The fact is that ICD-10 was postponed on 2 occasions for a full year each time. The fact is, only kicking and screaming will health systems, insurers, doctors' practices take up a new ICD system. The fear is of losing revenue or paying out too much in case you're the insurer. It'll take some time for ICD-11 to get to our USA, but maybe with the change in perspective of the DHHS that's going to be coming in, we will have someone say, do it. Then I would also, if you can, pester the WHO to roll out the chromosomal and genomic access, because that's really, I think, the important way to ensure that you in your doctor's office can say, doctor, when you're going to code that, you can put on the extension code. I'll just be over your shoulder. You see the extension code for the gene, right? LD90.Y. Yep. And now specify the gene, and it's 11497 because that's the HGNC's number for SYNGAP1. Thank you. And now that code enters those health insurance databases and can be mined, particularly by pharmaceutical companies or the vendors that have access to those insurance databases. And we can better understand our diseases, convey to the people developing therapies how important it is, and accelerate treatments. Thank you.